just listening all day to everybody and knowing how it felt to sit there and watch that game last night, this one cut different. It cut different. And, we've been doing the micro macro thing. The micro for me is almost just simple. Like they blew it. They blew it.
But how is that's where the micro really is.
So we can go through 100 different things there.
Yeah.
And yes, Klay Thompson, terrible decisions.
Jeez.
Steph there at the end didn't bother me as much. The second one, I would question a little bit. The first one, which rimmed in and out, defended well, difficult shot, but a makeable one. Draymond on the last play. What happened there? Was Wiggins supposed to be on the other side of AD? Can't wait to ask her. There's all kinds
Steph Curry,
of questions.
they win the jump ball, and he doesn't call timeout. No one calls timeout.
Right, but he's falling on his back.
It's not up to him to call a timeout at that spot, and I don't even know if you would have been granted a timeout based on what we've seen. We can pick through all of these little things in terms of the micro, but even for me, like the macro is bigger than just the game and the series. The macro is the whole team, the franchise, the future, and all that. But if you just look at the macro of the game last night, there are so many things that to me were just alarming that are troubling, even if they win Game 5 and even if they find a way to go on to win this series. There are major problems with this franchise, with this team right now.
It's not as good of a team as what we've watched in last year and in healthy prior years as well. It's still a viable team. I still don't think this thing is over. But what cuts me is they blew it, and yes, you can point to 100 different things. I think you and I have talked out shot selection enough to know that at least my opinion is. My guys, if you got an open shot and you're feeling it, okay, I can wrap my head around that.
Yeah.
But when you're firing stuff that isn't open, when your decision making has worn down, is when I really struggle. And that's why pool has been so hard for me this year. And in a recent way, Klay Thompson has been very hard. Those were unfathomable decisions last night.
I'm looking at it right now, Mark.
Unfathomable.
It's Lakers 100, Warriors 99. There's a minute 44 to go. Lonnie Walker IV has just scored his 13th point in the quarter. You've got 144 game clock, 15 shot clock. Draymond sets a screen, and Klay Thompson breaks free, and he dribbles to the left wing, and he's guarded. Lonnie Walker IV is on him. Klay dribbling left, pulls up a three-pointer from, it says 26 feet here in my game log, and that's about right. It's a contested, very difficult three early in the shot clock, and my guy, you're not on a heater.
No.
Why are we shooting that? Down one.
Down one. I have no idea. And for me, it's always fair to really come in the next day.
And Draymond Green, by the way, Iguodala'd him. He gave him 2 palms.
As he should.
Yeah.
As he should.
He was,
That's a what are you doing?
Yeah, thank you.
It's a what?
Willard and Dibs want to know.
What are you doing?
Totally.
What are you doing? And we sit here where we're just watching the game on TV with a beer in one hand and a remote in the other, and we question this stuff, and sometimes that gets to be unfair, but not in this case. Not in cases where you're yelling no the second you see him pull up. In both of Klay's shots, you're immediately yelling no. The second he even cocks that arm back, you're going, no, what? And so it only becomes acceptable if it goes in.
And that was the second of the two. The first one was, and I'm looking at it here, Warriors up 1, 99-98, the previous possession. There's 4.9 on the shot clock. 2:18 to go in the game, and it's a catch and shoot from, it says 28, felt to me closer like 30.
But it wasn't a catch and shoot. He dribbled twice to the right and then hawked it up with 2 people in his face.
Well, he gets a handoff from Draymond Green.
Right.
So actually it was a catch and shoot.
Well, no, but he dribbled. No. I'm almost 1,000% sure that he dribbled.
Nah, there was no dribble.
There had to have been a dribble.
Maybe previously in the possession, but I'm looking at it right now.
Are you watching the highlight or are you looking at the list?
I'm looking at the actual video where there's 8 seconds on the shot clock. Moses Moody has it at 34 feet. Klay is being contested at the logo. Draymond flashes, he gets it. and Klay runs around him.
Yes.
Draymond hands
the ball. No dribble?
Not a dribble.
Okay.
Had he dribbled, had he done a little pump fake with Schroeder on him, there's nobody in the key. I wish I could turn this monitor around, Mark, because if Klay Thompson does a little pump fake, he can go to the basket. There is nobody under the basket. Andrew Wiggins is way weak side with Anthony Davis on him. Klay got the ball from Draymond and just rise and fire.
Yeah, and 5 seconds on the shot clock sounds like nothing. It's actually a lot. You could move the ball around there. You can at least find a different spot, and then if you have to throw it back to Draymond, who would clearly be by himself for an uncontested three,
right.
I'd rather have that.
Yeah, there was no dribble.
Yeah.
And this is not to correct you, but this is just to refresh. Because it was these two, it was back-to-back possessions, and it was like...
My whole world went white. My face went red.
Up one.
Yeah, they're terrible decisions.
5 seconds left is a ton of time for a pump fake, a drive to the hoop, and even if LeBron comes over, you could then whip one out to somebody. It felt to me like, and this is Klay, we love Klay, because when Klay goes numb and he just starts to fire off threes and he's making everything, it's like, oh my God, Klay, he's on a Klaymaker game. We all love it. So it's hard to then criticize him when he does this. But these are the moments where, this is not the time for a 28-foot catch and shoot
with two people in your face.
Yeah,
Let's go to Doug on with Willard and Dibs. Hey, Doug, lead us off, man. Let's get to a lot of calls. What are you doing, Doug?
Hey guys, I'm driving home. I'm listening to you. I share your frustration. Three quick points. One, there's been a lot of mention of Iguodala in the last couple minutes to you guys, in the last half hour. This team is not the death lineup. I remember when games got close at the end, we had Iggy. We knew he or Draymond were going to smother somebody and get a steal. It's just the opposite now. Number two, Mark, you said a few minutes ago that, the Lakers, it's like they know they can shut us down, that they know they can shut us down for a while. I think that's kind of correct, but the reality is the Lakers and every other team in the league knows that we will shut ourselves down. They know that we will turn the ball over, that we will make a mistake, that we'll make a decision like Jordan Poole and Klay are making, and they know that. So we'll shut ourselves down. Number three, and I hope you do this, when you talk to Steve Kerr this afternoon, ask him why he never criticizes a shot. I watched him on the postgame last night, and they asked him about Klay's shot, and he just said it was a good shot. Klay does this kind of stuff. The reason we don't change our bad habits is because Kerr never criticizes them. He just say, perhaps that wasn't the best shot.
No, see, now, Doug, I'm going to jump in because he didn't say that. Exactly what he said, in fact, was, I think that Klay took a couple shots down the stretch that he'd like to have back. And so I know that as a fan, you'd love for the coach to come in like this is some sort of a movie and you're going to huck a chair off the wall and be like, these idiots. I can't, but that's not how you treat men in their 30s who have 4 championships. He said what he needed to say, which was that Klay took a couple shots that he'd like to have back. That is code for don't do that. And Klay knows that. So I know you want Steve Kerr to go off on these guys. Listen, when he was asked about Jordan Poole, he's like, it just wasn't one of his nights. No, it was a hell of a lot more than wasn't one of his nights. He got a goose and wasn't allowed back in the game. But what do you want the coach to do? Coach starts selling team down the river in a media conference. You got a problem. You want to know what I can promise you? What Kerr says on that podium, that's not what he says behind closed doors. That is a fierce competitor, and that room holds one another accountable. They wouldn't have achieved what they've achieved if they didn't hold one another accountable. But so far this year, with all that accountability, it still has not added up to the right chemistry.
You know the old expression, actions speak louder than words, and that's what it is when it comes to coaching, because the actions that Steve Kerr took were, Jordan Poole, you don't get to play anymore. I know that we are going to pay you $128 million over the next 4 years, but for tonight and maybe for Game 5 and maybe for the near future, you don't get to play anymore. You don't get to be in a pool party. It's not money time. You are playing so poorly, we cannot afford to have you on the floor. So whatever he says to the media, it is meaningless. Actions speak louder than words. And the actions surrounding Jonathan Kuminga have been even louder than that. Jonathan, you don't get to play. And Jordan, you may want to sit next to Jonathan. And by the way, J. Michael, who played 2 minutes last night, your little flash in the pan, it was a flash in the pan.
Yeah, but
he was a -6 last night. So I think the Lakers, when J. Michael played, when Kevon was sick, it was a little bit of a change of pace. The Lakers weren't ready for it. The Lakers weren't ready for anything that night, and it worked, but that's not a long-lasting fix. To me, you go into Game 5, and you might play 7 players. It might be DiVincenzo and Moody, and you're starting 5.
GP gets in.
You're right, because Kevon is, I guess Kevon's not a starter anymore. So you might be down to just 8, Mark, and that might just be it.
That's a definite possibility. I think they'll start with the same role that they always do for Poole, but it's a quicker hook. If you go out there, and again, if you've got butter all over your hands when you're on a pull-up jumper, what was that one? That was when I knew Jordan was just not there last night. You're on the left wing, and you pull up, and the ball ends up in the stands. I'm like, what are we doing? You can't, like, what is this? And that's when Steve was like, I think we've seen enough. So here's what Steve Kerr did say about Klay Thompson's shot selection.
I trust Klay. I mean, think of everything that he's done for this team. So part of who he is he's going to fire away. There were a couple late that he probably would like to have back. But, it's part of who we are as a team. We're going to fire. We're going to go. Steph or Klay gets an opening. They're going to let it go. And they've had a ton of success over the years, obviously. Both had some looks down the stretch. But, give the Lakers credit. They played good defense, and we couldn't get anything to go.
Believe me, there's a film session there. And when they look at those shots, no, this is not a good shot. But y'all have to understand, there's a job that's going on here. You don't go to a media session and just drag your top players who are headed to the Hall of Fame. It doesn't work.
Not at this point in the playoffs.
It doesn't work.
Maybe in January if you want to send a message.
Even that.
No, but you're right,
Klay's
Mark.
not at that point in his career. You're not sending messages to Klay and Steph and Draymond.
Even when Klay started slowly this year, and they did talk about how Klay was hunting shots, but you're right, they didn't drag him, but there was much more of a stronger narrative over the fact that Klay was shooting too much. They had a team meeting that we all had, reporting on about the fact that Klay was hunting his own shot. He was calling his own number too much, but Game 4 in an NBA semifinal series in the Western Conference playoffs, you're not going to come out and blast a Hall of Famer for 2 ill-timed shots.